Were you looking to see if you were recording?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Collectible Conversations, episode 19.
What was that?
I don't know. I had code cards on my desk and it looked cool, so I just did it. I just did it.
Yeah.
Did it not look cool?
Pretty cool.
See? Okay.
Hey, yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
2-1. You lose. What's going on, guys? It's been a while.
Just
It's been a long time.
couple days.
Well, for me and you.
I thought I
Been a
got
long time. And what's that song?
It's been a long day without you, my friend.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. It has been a
Charlie-
long day.
hey.
I'm ready for a nap.
Great segue. Charlie Pluth. He bought Pokemon cards.
Is that who
That's
sang
like too
that?
good of a segue.
It is.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't
Did
know
he
that.
buy car? I
Yeah.
have no idea why that was a good segue. I'm gonna need an
That's a
explanation.
Like,
So
that's-
Charlie Puth is
Okay.
a very incredibly famous singer. He has a rare disease called perfect pitch. No left. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, I think me and Sean know so little.
I need
This
you
is
to bring
this is
bring the
incredible.
big brainness down to like here.
This is
That's what I
incredible.
need.
Okay. So he's a very famous singer, songwriter, musician. And he bought a first edition base set Charizard and posted it on his Instagram the other day, which was an interesting addition to the celebrity cast of Pokemon collectors. So that was a very unintentional, clearly segue into the celebrity Pokemon world and, of course, the Logan Paul break.
Wait, I have questions.
Yes.
First of all, so the guy we're talking about right now is the one that sang that song in the Fast and Furious movie
Yes.
Yeah.
about the guy that passed away, or
Yes.
like that was kind of like he had already passed. Yeah.
That was the
Okay.
premise.
Good. Yeah. Okay. And then second, was the first that Charizard graded?
No, it was raw.
Ungraded.
Oh,
just
okay.
found
Yeah,
it.
I didn't see any of this.
It may or may not have been fake. I don't think it was. They looked real. He had a unlimited like Blastoise Mewtwo.
Yeah, he had an unlimited Mewtwo and then a first edition Pinsir.
Was that
like
what
the
it
same
was?
Picture.
Yeah. So it was very odd. And then people started posting like memes of it. And I can hear myself through you, Sean, but I don't think you put on your noise gate today. Okay, now it's better. But yeah, so another celebrity got into it. I can still hear myself. It was
Well, that's what I was trying to fit.
it was kind of
Hold on.
exciting. I was excited about it. I don't think there's any change in the market because of it, but I am curious to see where it segues because he's pretty good friends with like the Vlog Squad, David Dobrik, these other big YouTubers. If you guys are aware of who these people are, which I think are quite
Yeah, I know
influential as
David
well.
Dobrik. We've talked about him before.
Yeah, so
I feel like outside of that too, he's just friends with probably a lot of, musicians and
Yeah.
artists in general.
yeah, so obviously around our age range, so maybe that begins to expand at a greater pace now with all these people getting in on it. What are your thoughts? Do you think that matters after Logan Paul did all this? I mean, we haven't really seen an effect after Logan Paul's second break, so does that even matter anymore?
No.
I don't
I-
think so.
I think we're to the point that like everyone is already into Pokemon. Like I'm convinced at this point, all like 7 billion people on the planet have interest in Pokemon, are watching what's happening with Pokemon, and that like the celebrity market reach of like a new celebrity's getting into it. Like I literally had somebody tag me the other day on a post on Twitter from one of the linebackers from the Giants who used to play for the Packers that was tweeting out about like, does anybody want Giants merch for Pokemon cards? And I like responded like, once a Packer, always a Packer. Like, I'll take some Packers merch. Like, essentially, if you got any old Packers jerseys lying around, he didn't respond back. I don't think he liked that comment very much. But hey, man, at least he got paid, right? But like, I think at this point, the whole like celebrity impact is just like way overdone and just like a hype beast thing that's done to like try to get people to spend more money or inflate prices more.
Hmm.
I'm beyond it. I don't. It doesn't have any impact to me. It doesn't phase me a bit.
So over it. What about you, Edison?
Yeah, I just think it's like you mentioned his age, but he's probably just like the age where he grew up with the cards. I mean, he's really successful. Like he's not like somewhat successful, like borderline successful. He's not even like Logan Paul's tier. Like he is like international superstar.
Yeah.
So it's like he just has the money where he can, if he wanted something from his childhood, he could just buy it.
Hmm.
And I don't think this guy has any intent. Like it doesn't seem like Charlie has any intention to do what Logan Paul seemed to want to do, was like hype up the price or anything. It's just like, I mean, it's also like I think evident the fact that he posted a picture of like the base unlimited Mewtwo and then a random first edition Pinsir, that he's just getting the cards that he, and they're not graded or anything too, which I think. No, it just
No.
seems like he's happy to finally get the stuff that he wanted, and that's it. Like,
Yeah, he seemed
but I
like
do
he
agree with
was.
Sean. Like, it doesn't matter what type of news there is. Like, people will. I guarantee there's gonna be some eBay listings that people will just say his name in the title, like Charlie Puth, Charizard, just to
Probably.
ride the hype, but it
Yeah.
doesn't actually affect anything.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone left that would like get me excited to be like, "Oh, sweet, here's an opportunity to
Kendall
maybe."
Jenner.
Okay.
That's
You
what I'm waiting for.
okay, I agree. I'm in the
Like,
same.
it's gotta be so ridiculous that, like, your mainstream average does not give a shit about Pokemon in any fashion, like, starts caring, right?
Mm,
You're like, some random politician, like, Trump, AOC, like, somebody like that, or, like, some random, like, just so far off the like, Kanye West decides he's gonna open up Pokemon, like, it's gotta be something of that tier, right? That just, like,
AOC
everyone
would be
talks about it
big.
because it's either so huge or so ridiculous that people can't not talk about it. Like that's it for me.
Yeah.
And I think we've like expanded the growth and reach that you can have by like celebrity people getting into it because the thing is now celebrities getting involved in Pokemon and investing into it and promoting it and all that is mainstream, right? The reason it was so big before is because it wasn't mainstream. So when one of them did it, it became a talking point in news, but now it's like an everyday thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of more of like a selfish intent here where like, "Hey, Madison Beer, I can be your Pokemon buyer and we can hang out." Um, not the fact of like, the market's gonna blow up anymore. Like
Mhm.
Kendall Jenner would be sweet too. Like, hey, if I get the chance to sell a card to Kendall Jenner and maybe like give her a high five, sweet.
Or wait, is Kendall the most popular one or is it Kylie?
Kylie,
Kylie's probably the most popular one. Yeah.
Oh, that's who I meant then. My bad, Kendall.
Oh, well,
If you're out there watching right now, my bad.
I,
You know,
I'd go for Kendall
I think
personally.
we're safe. I think we're safe there. Yeah.
mm,
um,
I don't think anything. Like, I think a lot of these prices are pretty set in stone.
yeah.
Like, I don't know what any celebrity buying. Also, like, you buying a Charizard, like, I feel like how much higher can that possibly go? I mean, that's like a
In
different
the short
discussion.
term,
$1 million.
I think I think we've capped in the short term.
Charizard's a
Yeah,
million
like
dollar card, man. But
maybe
hey,
1 mil.
So
Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
like we've talked about the graph before.
yeah.
Radar already knows where I'm going. You can see me like drawing the bubble graph. But like this would be great if we had like a really high production quality where one just popped up right here. But like on the graph where you're like going up and you hit like the peak or whatever, and then you start to come back down.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
then as you're coming down, there's like another peak, right? It's almost like a little second wind, and then it comes down. I feel like where First Ed Charizard right now is like trying to like get back to that peak. It's almost like doing its double top, and now it's just like going to fall off a cliff. Like
No,
hold on.
Charizard hasn't
You
gone
guys
down
talk
yet, though.
what?
Charizard
What?
hit 350K. It's been
I'm
sitting
talking
there.
like okay, I'm not talking your like creme de the like okay,
You're
First Ed
talking
and a
five.
10
You're
is
talking 3 through 8.
I'm talking like yeah, the 1 through 9s, right? First Ed and a 10 is like a completely different beast. Like it is playing its own game, completely detached from all of the rest of First Ed
I
base.
just wanted to
And
make
that
that clear to the audience.
yeah, and no, and that's a good point though, because I think that's like a point that a lot of people tend to miss is they like see what happens with First Ed 10 and like Charizard specifically, and then they like assume that all of First Ed base is going to react accordingly. And the reality is like the people buying into that card now specifically are buying into that card because of the status symbol that it represents,
Hmm.
which is completely different from like everything else that makes up the variables behind first base and what it does. And so I guess, yeah, I should clarify that my reference of that whole graph thing is first at Charizard 1 through 9 and all of the other first base cards,
Mhm.
right? And first Charizard and a 10 is like doing its own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's funny to see the graph play out. I think that was like one of our first topics. I think
Second
is
podcast
that
ever,
the
episode
second
2.
podcast
Yep.
ever you brought out the whiteboard for the first time, and now it's a meme on your main channel. So that's pretty awesome. That we
Yeah,
I
I
don't think
actually
we
went and bought a netbook so that I could do a digital whiteboard so that I wouldn't have to draw on my wall.
Sweet. We're
I
looking
think the
forward to
drawing
that.
had good charm.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the extended point that I was trying to make with like Charlie posting that he had the cart like a Charizard.
Mhm.
Is that even in like a micro scale too, most people are just going after the Charizard. There's very few people who are gonna buy every single common and uncommon and first edition base set.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah, they can go after that one card because it's like even in like a low grade. I mean, you're kind of saying like tens are on their own, but like I think even the Charizard's on its own compared to the rest of the set. So I don't think you're actually going to see any change in the value of first edition base for like a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean, I still think I know we talked about this in voice during the PWCC night. Um, that there might be a slightly delayed reaction to the Logan Paul latest break. I know, you know, you talked about, and it is a proven thing where people prepare in any market for these types of events, and the price kind
Mhm.
of gets there. But I think it just kind of it fell between so many different other events that people were talking about, and there was a lot of skeptics out there, and the fact that PWCC was happening at the same time that Logan Paul was doing his break, I do believe that there is a slight delayed reaction that's going to happen. Nothing crazy, nothing out of this world, but a small little significant bump in the market because of that latest event. Because it brought in a lot more people from the crypto space to watch Pokemon, and there's a lot of money there.
Wait,
So, no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was like kind of like a segue off of that. That felt a little weird because we mentioned this too when we watched it. Was that the first break was a lot more personality driven and like who's purchasing the cards. Like the person I remember it was Graham Stephen. I think that's his name.
Grim
Like
7, yep,
the
yep.
Hmm.
Graham Stephen. That's one of the people I remember. And then just besides it, like all the people buying the cards were either people that we kind of knew passively from the hobby. I think Pokeran bought one. And then like other YouTubers had purchased them, and this time it was just crypto companies, and then like the company that he had partnered with for the NFTs, and it
Hmm.
was like a lot more, I guess, heavy-handed that it was advertising for businesses instead of like I don't know. So
That
I think that
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 is
matters.
literally what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The reason I think that you're wrong, and I don't like mean that in like an offensive way, but the reason I disagree with you is because of the fact of pretty much what you just said. If you take the 2 box breaks and you take the way the makeup of the event was, the nature of it, who was involved with it, and you take that first one, it felt very Pokemon-esque, right?
Mhm.
Pokemon YouTubers were buying in. You had like the little goofy skit at the start where they faked the breaking the box, and that got a lot of people's attention. And everyone was wondering, is this just going to be a huge just dumpster fire, right? And it ended up like for the most part being okay. There were some of the memes with Guru and the Bulbasaur and all that stuff. But for the most part, it was a fun Pokemon event. There was a lot of content that was made after. There was a lot of content that was made before. And overall, that felt like that was what it was about. Like a
Yeah.
cool thing that's happening in the Pokemon community. This did not feel like that. The box itself being opened, watching it, that was cool. But let's look at the narrative. What was the narrative around this box the whole time? The advertising revenue. How much are the packs worth? PSA putting the label on the card. Let's bring in the auction house guy to talk about his auction house that clearly has a vested interest in this because they're auctioning the packs. Let's talk about Bondley and the company that we're doing NFTs for Logan Paul cards through this, but in the reality doesn't really have anything to do with the box break at all, except that 12 of the people want to pay with crypto on the box stuff. Like the whole thing about this was a very orchestrated, like, we can make a shit ton of money on this and we're going to do it. And we're going to label it as like a Pokemon event for Pokemon people. But the reality is, like, this is completely a marketing business move to make boatloads of cash. This to me did not scream Pokemon fun event. which is why I feel like more people, believe it or not, actually ended up I felt like watch PWCC than
Hmm.
what watched this Logan Paul event. Like I think we all started watching Logan Paul and maybe like 4 packs in, I found myself scrolling through PWCC more than I was
Yeah, I did the
focused
same
on
thing.
this. Like I missed like 2 of the hollows that got pulled because like 1, I'd already seen it before, but 2, the nature and emotion of the event itself just did not feel the same as the first one. And, maybe that's not what they were going for, right? But like, I also feel like those are not the same kind of people that were buying into these packs that had any intention of being in Pokemon long term beyond the success of how long Pokemon stays relevant and the cash cow that it is. If we look at what the main message was that night, it's that NFTs are going to be the next thing. You need to buy into them now, right? And again, I said this way back when we did the first one. A lot of the people that came in and these celebrities that came into Pokemon when they did were like very gung ho that this is going to be the next thing, but that these are very business driven individuals. And I thought a lot of this like narrative around like, ooh, we really love First Ed Charizard, we really love whatever, that this was a lot more calculated and orchestrated. Look at those same individuals now. What are every single one of them touting right now? NFTs, NFTs, NFTs. I think a lot of this was it's choreographed, the whole thing, start to
Hmm.
finish, all the way from back then. Like I'm a firm believer. You could say everyone could say Squeaks got his tinfoil hat on right now,
No,
but I think it's just like
I
these are
think
business people making business moves.
I
And at the end of the day, Pokemon was a medium to make those business moves and utilize it. I do not think if Pokemon goes back to being the same that it was in 2017 or 2015 or whatever, that 80% of those people will even be here. I really don't.
see. I completely agree with you guys, but this is why I think I'm right because it was completely different than the last one. So it brought in a whole new crowd of people. And although it's not going to be any like that first one was dramatic. It was big for Pokemon. That was the focus. That's why there was such a big boom. But this one is going to be, in my opinion, a delayed reaction because it is bringing in new people into it still from different sectors of the market. And
So let me
with
ask you this then,
yeah,
real quick. Finish your
yeah.
thought.
Yeah, so with especially with the cards being returned from grading, because I guarantee there will be a 10 in there just because of the event. Uh,
Well, according to Golden, they're all tens.
yeah,
But
or that he'll have to call them and make sure they get switched.
yeah, yeah. Or
Um,
make sure.
that will drive more interest to this market.
So let me ask you this then. Would you say that because of that, it brought more crypto people into Pokemon? Or was it a bunch of crypto people unifying together to try to bring Pokemon people into crypto? I don't think
It's the
their
second
intention
one.
is to come into our sector. I think
It's the
their intention
latter.
is to
Yeah,
bring the money from our sector and continue it
yeah,
on into the sector that they have even more control over than
yes,
what they did in this one.
yes, yes. But
Which is
there's
why the narrative after the break isn't, "Holy shit, guys, we're gonna go out and buy a bunch of Pokemon cards and get in on this." It's, "Holy shit, guys, you need to get in on these NFTs before this market explodes because this is the next hot thing." And the way
yes,
everyone's talking about these is exactly like they talked about GameStop, exactly like they were talking about Pokemon back in October, Bitcoin previous to that, so on and so Dogecoin, like, the
yeah.
list goes on, and it's the same narrative from the same, like, group of individual entrepreneur, investor, like,
Hmm. Yeah, but there's that little
it
piece that will be left over in Pokemon for now. And don't you love
maybe.
that you can
I'm
swear on this channel? Isn't that great? Does it feel good to like let yourself out a little bit?
here he's just poking. Edison's just like, "I am not getting involved. I'm completely not being absorbed into
That's
this."
what this is
Yeah.
about. It's fun. We're just talking about stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, he's just poking me like
yeah.
a bear.
I don't know that reference, but sure.
But
Um,
no, I poke
yeah,
the bear, like, don't poke the bear? Okay.
yeah.
Anyways, I feel like you knew that reference,
Does a
but
bear shit in the woods?
this is this is anyways, we're getting off topic. I think that this is a good topic, and this is something I get heated about. I mean, we literally had to cut out a whole topic of NFT discussion in one of our podcasts because I got too heated. But, like and again, we have discussed, are there merits to NFTs? And
Which I was
I think
wrong,
there
by
are.
the
I think
way.
there's merits to crypto. I think there's merits to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I just think that anytime you have a sector that's so raw, so new, a lot of the word of mouth that's being driven is who's writing the narrative. And I think right now the narrative is let's make piles of cash.
Mhm.
And everything right now just seems like we don't care what it is, what it's built on, if it makes us money now. And this is a lot of stuff that people look back at the when, crypto really started to take off in 2016, 2017, and the way a lot of that played out and a lot of these coins like Ripple and things like that that people just they bought in and they got all their friends to buy in and everyone bought in and it got up to $1 and then it fell to 28 cents or whatever. Like everyone got crushed, right? And it just feels like we're going through those same patterns. It doesn't mean that there aren't merit out there. I know that there's this artist that's been doing NFTs for a while and kind of built up their platform on that, and they're very successful with it. I think there's merit to things like that. But a lot of these things that have been around for like a week, like literally, L- Logan Paul, and he's allowed to do whatever he wants. But like on his own podcast, he barely knew anything about crypto and brought in a crypto expert to talk to him. And now he's like NFT expert and running NFT like that. Like this all is just ridiculous to me.
Business
It's just
expert.
like siphoning money out of people. And my fear is what's dangerous about this is the idea of pulling Pokemon people into the NFT sector and siphoning their money out of them
Mm,
because it siphons money out of like the Pokemon community as a whole.
yeah.
It's the same dangers and predatory things that we've seen before with like razzes and raffles and all these things that
Mm,
effectively prey on people that are trying to further and progress themselves, and their emotions get preyed on and they get stripped of their money.
yeah.
And that's my fear.
Yeah, those razzes were definitely one of the biggest factors of price increase at one point in our before all this happened. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I mean during that conversation, I that it wasn't posted. It was um, I saw potential opportunity in those Logan Paul cards, and what they've tanked in price, haven't they? I mean, from what we
I
I
talked
I
about.
haven't been
No,
following them super close, but from what I heard, it was 1 Ethereum-ish to buy in, and that at one point, then at least the night of the break when we were talking, it was mentioned that they were down to, like, 0.28 or 0.38 Ethereum. So, if assuming those numbers are correct,
do you know
they lost
Edison?
somewhere between 66 and 73% of their value or something like that, so
Did you pay attention to that, Edison, at all?
no, I still don't even know what an NFT is.
A
Like,
so
non-fungible token.
which
yeah,
not
I
a
saw that
Now you
couldn't have came
know.
up with a better way to
but it was like,
phrase
wait,
it.
yeah, I
So
still don't
since
get what that
yeah,
means.
you should explain what NFTs are and, like, very, like, explain like I'm 5 to,
Oh,
like, everyone out there.
I don't know what it is. An
Okay.
NFT is a non-fungible token. It is a online digital
What's fungible?
fungible.
It's a digital asset.
It's like a fungus,
Yes.
but for the internet.
Okay.
So
I'll ex I'll explain it. Okay. So the idea of an NFT is effectively like it is something that is digital. So like in my mind, a simple way to sum it up is like a digital collectible or a digital asset. It's something that's on blockchain that everyone can look up who the owner is, know the ownership. It can't be tampered with or adjusted, etc. So like one of the use cases right now that people are discussing is art. Like an artist draws a digital art piece, puts it up on the blockchain, and then that piece can be sold to somebody. There could be other replicas, or people could buy like alternate versions of it or whatever. But the reality is that would be assigned to one owner. So if I go and take a screenshot of it on my computer, I may have a screenshot of that piece, but I don't actually have the ownership of that piece. Now, whether they get royalty rights or anything like that for that piece, that really depends on like the actual piece being uploaded. Like there's this thing called NBA Top Shots where you can buy a pack on the blockchain. You open your pack and you actually get clips of NBA plays that have happened in the past, but you don't retain any royalty rights or any rights to those clips themselves. The NBA retains those rights. And yet people are spending tons of money on these to say that they own, a crazy Zion dunk or an MJ shot or whatever, even though they actually don't really own anything. And so that's the thing of like, people always compare it to like, well, do you own the Mona Lisa when you take a picture of it, whatever. Like, and I think a lot of those comparisons are like really like abstract, like kind of like fringe comparisons. Like I don't think it makes a lot of sense to compare things like because isn't it the how do you pronounce it? Is it the Louvre?
The
Whatever the
Louvre,
the
yeah,
Louvre.
museum.
in
Yeah.
French.
Don't they actually like own the Mona Lisa? So like somebody does own it, right? Like that's the
Mm,
idea. And so
yeah.
like it's not like they're like selling out like shares of the Mona Lisa or anything like that. And so to me it's kind of absurd in a way. This actually started back with Crypto Kitties, is what it was called on blockchain. I think it launched in 2017, and it was a digital cat collectible where effectively you got different digital cats, and some of them were more rare than others, and people were spending wild amounts of Ethereum for these cats on blockchain, to the point that it became so popular for a while that it actually was bogging down the amount of transactions that could be processed on Ethereum blockchain at the time, because it didn't have the scaling capability that it does today. And for a while, it was like a massive like bottleneck.
So when are you
Eventually, that kind of
gonna
like
add the Squeak Cat Squad to that?
the digital squeak
Are
squad
are we gonna be
to
getting
the
those?
NFT chain. When am I? Yeah, I don't know, man. But that's the idea, like a digital collectible that you can own. So like Logan Paul's putting up all these NFTs of Logan Paul cards, and that are like effectively Logan Paul Pokemon cards, but they're not Pokemon because legality, whatever, but they look like Pokemon cards. And then you buy them on the blockchain, and your account on this Bondly or whatever it's called, stay you have this card, and you can transfer that card to others if they want to buy it, et cetera, just like a digital marketplace. So the same way that we could transfer a real card to someone else, etc.
And it was sold as a way to possibly win a free pack in that break as well. So
Yeah, which is really
there's
interesting because
so
that's like
much
buying into a
a
like, hey, you have a
sweepstakes.
chance to win a pack. It's like a
It's a
lottery, is
lottery.
what it is.
That's
It
a
wasn't marketed that way. Like,
yeah.
and this is the problem with like the crypto sector as a whole,
It's a
is that
lot. There's a
it's
lot of that
still
going on.
relatively unregulated, right? If you would have just done that in real life with like, hey, you win a digital picture if you enter this thing for $10,000, but if you don't, but if you pay 10 grand, one of 30 or three of 36 people or whatever are going to win a pack, or however many bought into the cards. That is just a lottery, and like there's like a lot of regulations on like what you have to put into place to be able to legally do one of those. And crypto is not that way. So how many people bought in because they wanted a Logan Paul NFT? How many people bought in because this was a cheaper chance to get a chance at buying one of these packs that they couldn't afford the pack outright? And
Gambling.
I think that that goes unregulated. I think it's very dangerous. And again, is just another way of siphoning money out of the community, just like razzes, just like raffles, wheels, waffles, whatever you want to call them.
I
It
almost
all
bought
goes hand in
one for
hand. I
that.
just think it's a dangerous thing. I'm
Yeah,
not a fan.
there's a funny post on Facebook. I don't. I feel like you guys probably saw it too, where the guy on the night of the break he posted. He said, "Hey, I just bought Logan Paul's NFT. What's an NFT?" And he had absolutely no clue, but he just dropped. I think it was like $375 for something. And he's like, "Oh, I was watching the break, and I was like, I felt like I had to buy it." And like, that's
Yeah.
great, but like that's the whole idea. Like this guy just spent money. And I agree with the idea of siphoning. If someone just dropped around $400 on something that they know very little about, like I would never do that, but there probably are a lot of people who would.
I thought
And
about
it's
it.
being sold as like radar said, like as you're part of this experience. And the guy talked about that in the comment. He was like, "Oh, I was part of like this historic event in Pokemon." But is it a historic event in Pokemon, or was it someone who saw an opportunity to convince people that they could be a part of an event and make a lot of money? And you're talking
Yeah.
about like it's a digital good. I genuinely wonder, like, would it have just been better for him to make like a physical card? Like, there's
Yeah, but
absolutely,
then Pokemon comes after you because you're actually big enough that like that's the thing. Like all these digital cards that get made every day, like these custom cards and stuff, technically all of this is like infringement on like the intellectual property of Pokemon.
Well, they don't have
A lot of
Pokemon
times
backs or
Pokemon
anything, do
doesn't.
they?
What'd you say?
They don't have Pokemon backs or anything, right? They just have an
yeah. I'm trying to think
outline
like
of a
if he doesn't do
card
the
that looks like
Pokemon
a
back.
card.
Yeah.
I think it would be tough, right? So it's like this is the problem with like fair use, right? And copyright law is like it's all gray area. The question comes down to, do you want to take that chance to have to fight the behemoth in court, right? Like, and the reality is like most people continue to do it because they're either A, not making enough money, or B, of like big enough influence for Pokemon to care. I feel like somebody like Logan Paul, with Logan Paul's history, would be somebody that Pokemon would care. And even if they maybe didn't have grounds to like really get them removed, could they pressure him to get them removed, right? And so, like, I'm sure that they consider doing like their own cards. And like you can say like, oh, they don't have Pokemon backs, but you also have to, when you talk about like fair use and things like that, you have to take in consideration the context, right? So he comes out in a Charizard costume. He's opening a Pokemon booster box. Like he is clearly like utilizing the world of Pokemon and their IP to make money. I think that like they could probably formulate like a really good case, which is why like even on a digital asset that he's making money on, they probably could formulate a good case. Whether or not they want to do that or they just like the publicity they're getting right now, I mean, I don't really know, right? This is just all my opinion,
Probably a
but
dumb move on the company standpoint. They're getting a lot of attention with
maybe.
this.
If he just like, if he made, I'm trying to think like if he made merch and if he made like if he did hoodies and shirts where it was like him and maybe like Mike, just like dressed up as Pokemon with like like a cute art style of both of them as like anime characters with like a Charizard hoodie or something, or like as like the trainers, would they be sued for that? And
I
I
don't
think it's
know.
tough to say because like
Would they be? Who knows,
who
right?
knows?
That's really
Yeah,
down to Pokemon. Could they be? Absolutely. I mean,
absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like if his goal, I guess he wants to push NFTs overall, but and he probably has a legal team that looked into like him making merch. But I feel
yeah.
like he could have
No,
made so
he's
much.
smart with his merch. He has his
Yeah,
whole his Maverick clothing line that has
Yeah,
nothing.
because
yeah,
they
I
have
wrote down like
Maverick. Yeah.
Maverick.
He does merch the
He's
right
a
way.
good.
All the YouTubers that do it are short lived in their merch world. Although Squeaks, we do want your hoodies, so please make that happen.
So please give us your short-lived world merch. Yeah.
But
I'll
he
be
does he
honest.
does
That's
good with his merch because he does like the limited drops. He keeps it very exclusive, right? Like
Well,
he advertises.
he does that, but it's really just like it's a brand. It's not Logan Paul.
Yeah,
It's not
like,
Yeah, it's
he
not
it's
like his
created
name
a
on the
clothing
shirt.
yeah,
brand
yeah,
essentially and
yeah,
then marketed it through his channel.
yeah. So it's
If
clean, I
I had,
guess.
like, real Radar, do you wanna model some clothing? I'll do limited drops, and I'll make an actual clothing brand, and then
Yeah.
Edison, you can too. You both are attractive. I'll have you both model the
Thank you.
clothing.
Okay.
Boom.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, it's not really like it wouldn't be. It can't be Squeak's Game World brand. It has to be like a
Right.
separate
Correct, and
thing.
that's the difference, right? If I went
Right.
out and created,
Although
you
the
know
brand could easily be like Squeak's clothing brand and the logo could be a simple little cat head or something, like that's perfectly fine. I mean, his Maverick is a bird. It's based off of his bird, right? So same exact thing, just
Oh, the
Based off a
wheels are
cat.
turning now.
see?
Dang. And then I'm gonna make my clothing NFT, your digital sweater that you can get.
There
Put it
you
on your
go.
digital avatar that I'll
No,
sell
put
you
it on your
next.
digital cat that you sell that you also sell. Like,
From
look,
Crypto Kitties.
if anybody like has money and needs ideas, just hit me up. I'll make you very, very rich. Just kick some
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
So as a summary, I am very skeptical of this space, not because I don't think it has merit. I think that there's absolute
It's
merit. I
so
think that
dangerous.
there will be companies that find ways to make real value, in this sector. I just think that there's also just going to be a lot of people and companies that come in and find ways to like make a quick buck with no intention of like long-term
Yeah.
anything in the sector. Um, I would say you're
Yeah, I'm
probably
more in
more
agreement.
bullish on it, Radar.
No, I think it's extremely dangerous. I do think it's still well, I talked about this last time. I think it's a great short-term opportunity. NBA
Yeah,
Top
okay.
Shop is blowing up. You can make money off of
Mhm.
that. But as soon as you buy a pack and open something, sell it. Don't hold on to that thing. Like it's super dangerous what's happening. Extremely dangerous.
Mhm.
But there is short-term opportunity. Like like I've said, there's opportunity in every market, in every industry. You just need to find it. So yeah, I'm staying away from it. I've looked into it because I want to understand how it works, just in case. I mean, I still need to do that for Bitcoin. I don't understand how to transact with crypto, so understanding and putting money into the research makes sense, but just be careful. That's all I would say, because that's what I did with
Yeah.
Pokemon. I put a ton of money into open packs. That was a waste of money,
Mhm.
but now I consider myself an expert on sealed product. So, and I
What
think
about you,
other people
Edison?
too.
Are you bullish or bearish on your NFTs?
I agree with you. Like your overall point. I think you summarized it well. Is it like, was it really that crypto people were trying to get into Pokemon, or is it really that the crypto people were trying to get the Pokemon fans convinced that this is the next best thing? And I feel
Mm,
like that's really what it is. It's like they're just trying to make it seem cool. And I'm always skeptical when stuff is sold to you as like free money or like the next best thing. So
Mhm.
oftentimes, I mean, we've talked about this too. Like even when October happened, was that like the people who are pushing this stuff, it's not like they're buying into the market now. Like they're setting up the system and they're just unloading it with the hype. And
Well,
When's
in
it crack?
your comment right there, the people that you're referring to back in October are the same people now that are NFT,
Well,
NFT, NFT.
no, I remember I discussed this with you then, but like I think that the main person that we can like contended on was I think it was like Logic, but I was like I don't think Logic's really
Yeah,
into
I
it
don't
for the
think
money.
so. No.
Yeah.
I think he was someone that like genuinely seemed like he enjoyed because he also kind of like has just faded into the sunset. Like I think he's back to just like enjoying Pokemon himself, right?
So
Like I think
I
go ahead.
I was the one on the phone with Logic when he was buying the Charizard at auction, that record price that we still talk about today. Um, and I haven't talked to him in a long time because he went pretty hard on the Pokemon and wanted to take a step back because he got his enjoyment out of it. He opened some base set boxes. He did one with Rhyme Style, like they FaceTime and all that. I think it's in one of his videos. He
Mhm.
bought the Charizard. He got that card that he wanted. He was looking for investments. He bought some things to hold on to. But yeah, he did his thing. He enjoyed it. And I don't know what he's done since then, but yeah, his case was definitely a little different than the rest.
Well, and I think that's a great example of like, here is a celebrity that's like, oh, I like Pokemon. I want to get into this and like share it with my community. And everyone else took that and made it so much more than what it was and like publicized it even more than like what he wanted to do for him and
Yeah.
his group
Mhm.
because of the fact that they knew that that would drive traction and all of this stuff. It's the same way that like when like everyone was talking about like kind of after the first Logan Paul break happened of like, well, okay, who's next? Like, who can we get in next? And we'd like start tweeting people and tagging like, oh, Elon Musk, we got to get Elon to open a pack, like stuff like that. They're trying to publicize people's involvement in this to like generate more hype, even if those people don't want to publicize it. Like that was the difference between
Well,
Logic is like I felt like he was just like enjoying it and like showing off like what he was enjoying to his group. Whereas like all of these other people were like trying to integrate into the community and really blow it up into something.
mhm.
That's like where like the whole example Radar started this with was like Charlie Puth buying a card. Like
Mhm.
that just seems more in line with what he did.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
he didn't buy a graded card, he just bought a card and he showed it off to like I mean, it doesn't he can't like control what his fans do when he makes and like
Yeah,
talks
yeah,
about
yeah.
stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like his personal social media. He just posted that he bought something and that was it.
Yeah,
And
and
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
and
Like
if he
people are gonna
announces
spin it.
tomorrow, like, "Oh, I'm partnering up with, Radar and Leonhardt and all these people, and we're gonna start doing box breaks and all this kind like, that to me would, like it's almost like the intentions show through in the longevity of it, right? Like, what started this whole thing? It was Gary Vee, right? Pretty much, like, way back last year,
Well,
like,
yeah, I
Gary
was gonna
Vee
bring him up. Yeah.
Justin Bieber.
also, Gary Vee has tweeted about NFTs at least 100 times in the last 72 hours. At least. Like, it's
Yeah.
like every single tweet, like, I feel like all his tweets used to be like very like positive, like it was like what he was doing, right? Like he had like tea time with Gary Vee in the morning, and then it was
Mhm.
like all this other stuff. Now every tweet I'm seeing is literally just NFTs.
Well, you saw that
And like
picture of him with all his cards behind him, right?
Yeah.
It looked like he's organizing and getting ready to move some stuff. That's what I thought.
maybe, and like that's a lot of like extrapolating thing.
Right.
Like I don't like to like put narratives or like write narratives for other people,
I
but
do.
like the narrative that he has written right now is that his complete focus is like NFTs, right? And
Yeah.
that's fine if that's what he's into. It just seems like a huge jump to go from like here I'm into trading cards, but I'm still doing all of this. Like even when he was into cards, it was never like every single post was about cards, right? He
Mhm.
would have like maybe one a day or something, but he still did like all his podcasts, his interviews, like all those things. And he's still doing those things, right? I still see like those posts, but like on his Twitter specifically, like every single post is either like, hey, I hope you guys have a great day, or here's all the NFT research I'm doing. Like I even saw a post, the one that was the most ridiculous to me, and I love Gary Vee, I love everything that he puts out, was like N with an underscore, F and an underscore, and then it was an underscore with a blank, and he's like, "Fill in the blank." I
Yeah.
I kinda just wanted to put NFC because they don't have the Jets, which automatically makes them better, just, like, throw major shade, but, like, I wasn't going to. But, like, I don't know, man. I just like this is the kind of thing like the hype beast crowd like kind of concerns me because I
Yeah.
also think it's like one of those situations when you're of like his status, you can like just love something and indirectly, like by sharing your love, create that hype beast behind it. And I think that you have a responsibility to your community and knowing that people are watching what you're doing and that they are going to react accordingly.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there is like a responsibility to that. Maybe that's what he wants, right? I don't know what he wants. I don't know Gary Vee. Um, but that's always like my fear is watching on the outside. Like a lot of people either are just going to like let's be honest, right now so many people are in bad boats, right? Whether it's because of COVID or just job loss or whatever. People are in bad situations. People are always looking for that fast ticket out of that situation, no matter what that is, the quick out.
Hmm.
And the quick out is hard work. Like, even though that seems like the longer route, that is the quick out. But most people don't realize that. They're never going to realize that. They're going to look for like whatever that quick thing is. And I just feel like a lot of this stuff preys on that. And that's just unfortunate. Um, because I think we all know someone, or maybe even ourselves at one time have like been affected by this. And so that to me is always just like a frustrating thing. It's like on a Pokemon level, it's how I feel. Like we've talked about Razzes or raffles, but have you ever seen those mystery power boxes at Walmart? They have like
Yeah.
5 packs with a chance at a vintage pack. I feel like that is like
That
the
started it all.
summary of the whole
But
thing. Yeah, it's the
but those
Razzes,
aren't new.
raffles, the NFT. Like like in Pokemon, like that is it, right? If you're trying to build a collection and you want a vintage piece in it, do you save up your money and go buy your $200 pack? Or do you go buy this $25 mystery box at Walmart for that
I
chance
feel
because
like we're
that's
in
the fast track?
2016 right now with that conversation. That took me back.
Yeah, but like that's the thing though that many people out there probably can relate to, right? Even if they haven't researched NFTs. And so that to me is like, I don't know, that's the hard one. This whole sector gets me worked up because I do see so much potential in it. I just like don't like the ecosystem that's around it right now. And I
99%
think
of
that
it.
will actually like stunt the growth of NFTs in that
Yeah.
whole sector. I think it'll take it way longer to get to where like it needs to be. I think like for example, Amazon. Let's look at Amazon, the dot com bubble. Amazon was in the dot com bubble, survived and blew up into the giant. But if the dot com bubble wouldn't have like been as irrational and everybody speculating on literally every company and just pumping tons of money into it and the whole thing come crashing down, could Amazon have become what it is today 10 years sooner? Like and we'll never know that answer. But it's almost like it stunted the growth of that sector for like a set period of time and set things back.
Hmm.
It's almost like that idea of you try to move too fast and you like fall forward,
Yeah.
And so yeah, anyways, there's my rant. You guys can add or talk or whatever. Like I get heated with this topic, man. This is
Yeah.
just like I'm passionate about it.
I don't know where we pick up. Like I don't I don't
Well,
know if we're
There's
no,
talking
no,
about before
I
that.
I want to move on to PWCC a little bit because
Yeah.
one thing that just frustrates the hell out of me, especially today, that nobody is saying that they're wrong about anything. Everyone is claiming to be a genius, and I was wrong about the Pikachu Illustrator. I predicted, I guess, that it would hit about $700,000. I thought that was going to be a fair valuation with the information and that I was taking in and talking with other people, and it hit half that, which is significant. That's a $350,000 difference, and nobody, everybody likes to say, "Well, yeah, that makes sense because look at the growth from the 9, blah blah blah, from before at Heritage at the trade, whatever." But I was wrong about that, like completely. I was way off, and it actually
Mhm.
brought to light a lot of things because I actually almost bought that card. No, that was a different card. I almost bought a card, an Illustrator, before this auction. That was probably an 8. And I was like, okay, at fair, it would have been a 7, and I would have broke even on it, and that would have been honestly devastating to break even on a purchase like that
Mhm.
because what I'm doing is moving these trophy cards, and I've been spitting this narrative. I've been writing a narrative that I can buy cards from Japan and sell them in the US for more money because it's more accessible. And in reality, we just saw that not happen. We saw somebody, I forget what the price was on that specific illustrator, but I'm pretty sure that person either broke even or even lost a little bit of money on that card. So
On the 7 that just sold.
on the 7 that just sold.
Oh,
So
I didn't even know where it was from.
it
But you're
well
saying
it
that
was it was a new cert. It was a 5
Yeah, it was a
cert.
new. Oh, I didn't even know I didn't realize it was a 5 cert.
So it had to have been one of the recent purchases.
I was gonna
Okay.
say, could this have been the one that was originally listed at like was it like 90,000 or 100,000 or something? It was like one of the first Illustrator sales that Sub F in the Discord was like originally
I
going
re-
for, and then
I remember this. Yeah, it
it
Well,
got
seemed like
canceled
maybe it
after
like
that
got
came.
snaked off or something. Yeah, like could it have been that one?
we
Maybe.
matched
That
it
was
up to the hollows, and I believe the price of that one was like 320,000 or
Okay, so it
something.
would not be the same one
Yeah, it
then.
was a little
okay.
bit after. So
Okay.
yeah, so with all the fees,
Which
the grading and all that, take away the fees from PWCC. I don't know if they had special agreement because of that card.
I think it also gets
mhm,
capped when it's that expensive for
Yeah,
like a decent amount.
yeah.
yeah.
So that was a loser basically. Um, I
But do you want?
go ahead.
Uh, oh, I was gonna say, if you want to talk about losers, I think that base set two Charizard that has no hollow foil is
You
like
gotta be
that's absurd that it went for that.
well. We're looking at the loser right here too, who
Yeah,
talked about
guy who
it
actually lost.
in his YouTube video the other
Yeah,
day.
Dang. Dang, I'm the loser. Lump me in with base 2 Charizard and Illustrator. That's a good group to be in.
I just feel bad.
Yes, I lost the base 2 by 100 bones. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I actually forgot the card was being auctioned, was what happened, and I turned around, Radar's like, "Yeah, it ends in, like, 48 seconds," and I turned around, I muted and go my wife's, like, right behind me, I'm like, "Hey, do we buy this?" And she's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, "This is the only one." She's like, "Probably." And so I looked at what the price was, and it's like 12, 10, 11. So I just like jammed a number in. It was like 16,200 something because it was at like 13K, like
Yeah.
with like 7 seconds to go. So I just like jammed the number, hit bid, and with 1 second left, it popped up. You're the highest bidder. I was like, oh, like figured like, oh, I've got it, and I refreshed the page, and it's like you lost. And I was just like, no freaking
And
way.
you had a
So
weird
yeah,
number in there. You had something with some change, right? And then
yeah, it was like 16,027 like, I think I bid
But
171.52 or something like that, and they bid, like,
Mhm.
271.52, so, like, I assume they had a high bid that just, like, bumped over it, but the problem is that since it said I took the high bid, their bid that bumped over it had to have, like, come in between that 1 second and close,
Mhm.
right, and was then higher than my, like, that $100 increment,
yeah,
and so, like, you've gotta assume it was like, maybe it wasn't a bot, maybe somebody just, like, perfect clicked it, I don't know, but, I mean, if you look at the bid history, the times are the exact same
Oh,
that the bid
wow.
came in,
A
and
true
so the fact
snipe.
that it showed me that I was winning means that I mean, like, just the way it registered, who knows, but I
was that
lost
private
at
bidders only? No, right?
Mm-mm.
mm-mm, no.
No. Mm.
Yeah, but the reality is I lost, but I agree with you, Edison. I think the card went grossly too cheap. I think if you put that up on Heritage, it
Yeah.
does a lot better. I think it's just one of those that most people
No,
that
I,
looked at
I
that
I
didn't
agree
know
with your
what
point.
the error was,
Yeah.
and if you don't know the history behind that card, I think the Protostoice would have done the same thing. Whereas you put it up with an auctioneer that has, a been extensively told what to talk about with the card, what makes it unique,
Well,
and
it's a
they get
different
up there and they
client
start
base too.
talking, and yeah,
Mhm.
you've got people on the phones that FOMO into stuff or just have more money than they know what to do with, and they're told that like, this is a one of a kind, like blah blah blah, like you're gonna get some of that traction interested.
Yeah.
And you also like this was a card that was smack dab in the middle of 3,300 other cards. And
Well, yeah, I didn't even know it was
like,
for auction. I found out that night. Um,
yeah.
Yeah.
and all
You brought
the
it up. I found out from you, like
yeah,
you mentioning the price.
and all the other trophy cards that did incredibly well were marketed beforehand, during, whatever. My Espeon was not mentioned once beforehand, and that's a special card. It's not on the same tier, obviously, as the Illustrator or whatever, but it's still a special card. And it did well. I thought it was going to go a little bit higher, and it probably would have done better if it was marketed like the other cards were. But it's just
Mhm,
not been a part of that conversation forever. So,
mhm.
yeah, yeah, someone got that
And
for a steal.
this is one of my fears with PWCC, and I actually remember talking about this back in December because everyone was talking like the market had already started to dip, and they had just started promoting like send in for January,
Mhm.
right? And that they were, I think it was January that they did 2 blocks, wasn't it? Or like 2 auctions.
Yeah. December.
Yeah, and yeah, and everyone was, like, talking about, like, "Oh, man, we need to send in for January," and I cautioned a lot of people because I said, "If everyone has the same mentality and everyone just starts flooding their stuff into PWCC, you're gonna end up in a circumstance where you're playing a gambling game of, like, hoping that your card's the first one listed, because if there's 10 of the exact same card right in a row, like, there's a high likelihood that, like, some of these just underperform, and that's why we see it all the time, right? Like, 9 Charizard, there's one that ended at 45,000, and another was, like, all the way down to, like, 38 or something like that. Like,
Mhm.
that's a $7,000 swing, and, you can always factor card condition and things like that, but there's, like, hundreds of examples of this, and or, like, if you just get put in the wrong part of the block, or they have so many listings now that if your title's wrong and they don't have time to fix everybody's titles, like, things like that, like, it's almost becoming oversaturated that you'd be better off, like, just doing it on your own, and that's why I think the Blastoise, maybe even the Espeon, I don't really know. I have to think about it more, but, like, some of those cards I think are gonna start gravitating towards these bigger auction houses like Heritage and,
Yeah.
Certified Link and things like that because of the fact that they can kind of, alienate themselves from that saturation.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, I remember we talked about the EX Deoxys box 2 weeks ago, and that's like even the
Mhm.
same thing where I wonder if that box was brought to Heritage and they had someone like hype up, what you could pull in the set, how hard like it was to come by, and
Mhm.
how few there probably are sealed. Like how much better that would have done if it was catered with better information, better timing, like Heritage. It's multiple auctions ending within a minute, so like you're bouncing between trying to see what's ending, and then oh, I mean, PWCC. The
PWCC, yeah,
Heritage
yeah.
is like minutes where it's allocated just to this one guy talking and hyping up your product,
Yeah.
and um,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it is
tough.
interesting, and something that I've been thinking about a lot too, because I've got some cards that I want to do that with, and I just don't. I
Yeah,
haven't figured out where to send it.
a- and like outside of cards too. Like one of my close friends, like I met him through sneakers, but he transitioned very heavily into art and the coins over the past couple of years. And he showed me like his Heritage sales over the past year, and it's like astounding how much of a premium he can get just from sending it to the auction house and letting them do their process. Because the people who are on the phone putting their bids in, like a lot of the time they do have like fuck you money,
Yeah.
so to speak. Like they really don't care what they pay. Like if it's
Yeah.
advertised to them correctly, they will pay up, even if you can find the same thing cheaper on eBay. Like
Yeah.
a lot of those people aren't going on eBay.
And even after that premium that's taken out, or that fee that's taken out for the seller, it's pretty wild.
Well, and
Um,
some of that stuff can be negotiated, but you
yeah.
just also have the circumstance where, like, a lot of people value knowing that your stuff's authentic, that the people you're dealing with are reputable, that they're not gonna scam you, that you're not gonna have to worry about, like, chargebacks and things like that on the seller side. Like, a lot of times it's just the convenience of knowing that it's a safe, secure transaction for both ends. I mean, I buy a lot of video games from Heritage, like, in their auctions. One of the things I like that if I was, like, ever considering selling some of my pieces, as to why I'd send it in, is because I know that they send out a book for their big premier auctions that goes to literally every customer that they have that signs up that says, I want to know more about video games. And they send out a nice, well made book. And I enjoy getting that in the mail every
Those are
month. Even if I
nice.
don't plan on buying anything, I'll sit and read through it and see all the games that are in there and how
Yeah,
many other people are out there doing that. Like, it's that kind of marketing. I mean, that auction house spends more on marketing than almost any auction house out there.
See, that's the
And
dream as a collector, is to
yeah,
do that, to have the type of money to not worry about looking at the market, just looking at what auction house that you enjoy buying from sends you, you find whatever item you want and you go get it. That's a collector's dream. It's
yeah.
automated. No stress. You just buy what you want.
And yeah, for video games, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There have been multiple times I'll look through the book and have no intention to buy anything and be like, "Oh man, that Animal Crossing. All right, put a circle around it." And then I tune in on the day to see if I can win the Animal Crossing when I wasn't even planning on doing it because there it is, a game that I don't see that out, things like
Did
that.
you win
And
that
like
one? Because I've been looking at a few of those, and
I did not, I did
I've
not
been on
win
a
the Animal
couple.
Crossing.
Yeah.
No. Um,
I haven't won
as
one
I
either.
look over at like the games that I
yeah,
have
you guys
won
have
and
too
think,
much
man, I
money.
need to quit buying games. Like I have like a whole row behind me
um, but yeah, no,
and
it is
and
interesting,
buying.
and I'm sitting here kind of second guessing myself on something because PWCC just sent out that deal for 3 free submissions for life, and I took out nearly all of my inventory that I have or plan on listing. And I think I'm going to send it to PWCC. And I think a lot of people are doing that. So is that going to flood the market? Are people going to slow drip? What are they going to do? Are they just going to list on the vault account? Like that's going to be overwhelming for PWCC.
They'll eventually have to split into like multiple days or something. Like they already do multiple days with like some things ending on one day and that kind of thing. I think they just have to like eventually admit that maybe there needs to be like two blocks. Like when Heritage does video games, for example, they do like a premium block, and that it's kind of like what PWCC has started doing, where they put some of these trophy cards and stuff at the start, but they still run it all in one day. Whereas like Heritage will do like the premium block of like the really high end on like a Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll skip Saturday, and then on Sunday will be the remainder of like the video game block or something like that. And it generally doesn't overlap with comics. Like it's all considered one thing, and they'll each be on their different days. And I think that's what PWCC is going to have to get to if they really want to contest some of these bigger auction houses for some of these premium type cards. Because again, I think you take that Illustrator and I think you put that up on Heritage, where you just saw a Protostoice get 360,000. I have a hard time believing that the Illustrator also doesn't pull a new high.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that was gonna be my point too. Like, if you have the type of card, like, I mean, it's a what if, but I think that type of stuff is just gonna do better. And like
Mhm.
you mentioned it too, like I wonder what I feel like the person who bought the Charizard, maybe they keep it, but I'd be very curious, like how good that could do at auction.
oh, that
It's
could
like the
be,
grade doesn't matter. It being a six doesn't matter. It just has to be sold as the one of the kind.
yeah, that could be
Mhm.
one of the greatest flips of all time right there. Like,
Yeah.
buy it and
Maybe,
send your
yeah.
ranches. I mean, it's a
And
risk.
and I
It's
appreciate
definitely a
and I
risk.
appreciate though that you like come on and say like, "Hey man, I was wrong about the price." I think we all have things that we're wrong about, right? Like I had that video a few weeks ago saying why I think Evolution's booster boxes make sense at $1,000, and like, I wrote an article back in 2016 where I said I thought Evolutions would be really good long term, but if you would have asked me at any of the 4 years in between there, I would have told you that there's absolutely no way that this set does anything. It's a terrible set. They've overprinted it, like they killed it, like, and that's like how opinions can fluctuate. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that we don't see enough, especially on YouTube, where nobody ever wants to sound wrong, right? Because you want your viewer, your consumer to believe that you're just, omnipotent, that you just know everything. And like the reality is just that's not true.
Hmm.
And we all make mistakes all the time. And that's part of the business. And I actually think like being authentic and admitting that actually provides a lot more credibility. Um, because then you know that when they do hit it, that they're also telling you the truth. And so I actually appreciate that. And I think that's one of those things that it could have went either way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, if it did go to 700,000, then you could say like, "Oh, I told everyone it was 700,000."
Yeah.
Like, look,
yeah.
I'm never wrong. Or if you said like you own up to it, then you're still never wrong.
Mhm.
Like
True.
like
Yeah, that's true.
it's
Yeah.
only a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I think
mean, everyone's only doing the best they can with the variables we have,
Hmm.
right? Like, the and the reality is, like, the thing about the Illustrator specifically
The Orange Crush.
is that yeah, the crush, is that a lot of the data that we've had about the Illustrator prior to, like, 2020 was all just, like, hearsay speculation,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of that, like, came from people that own them. A lot like, there weren't a lot of data points on the Illustrator. I mean, there was, like, that one sale of the 9 back in, like, was it 2016? And then or maybe it was 2015, I don't remember, it was around then. But and then there were, like, a couple other but other than that, there wasn't really a lot of data to go off of.
Hmm.
Right? Now we're, like, getting data points. We're seeing multiple sold out of Japan. We're seeing this 7 that's been sold, now on, like I always say the North American market, but, like, eBay is, like, worldwide, but, like, accessible to, like, the North American and European markets where, like, a lot of these ones in Japan feel like they're less accessible. And, like, now we're seeing tried and true data-driven points where, like, that's the kind of stuff now that people can reference back to, and not all of this just, like, word of mouth, like, "Well, my friend told me over here, or my brother told me over there," like, that kind of thing. Like, now we actually, like, have data rooted in it. And I think that's why we saw a card like this go for what it did, because you had other data points. Look at all the ones that have sold across Japan over the past year, and they've been in that range. And so if
Hmm.
someone's going to step out and go for a more what would be considered an average grade of like a 7, from like the baseball world or something like that, if you look at a 7, they're going to say, okay, well, how many of those raw copies were generally around probably an 8 or 7 grade? and this is what it would be. Because the reality is, generally, a graded card should never be more than the raw card minus just like the grade fee plus a slight premium for like guaranteeing that it's authentic and like assuring that that grade is what it is, right? Removing that ambiguity.
Hmm.
And I think once you start getting into those really high dollar amounts, that's where people really start understanding the scale better than like people paying crazy premium, like $90 on a PSA 10 Rayquaza from Guardians Rising that costs 35 cents, like things like that. And so, like, this to me made sense that somebody took a 7 card and said that this is generally in line condition wise with these other raw ones that sold. And this correlation makes sense. And that's why this price point makes sense. And I think that it makes sense once it lands there. Right. And so, that to me was like the big takeaway from the whole Illustrator sale, whether the price is or isn't warranted, all that aside, is that now we really have some data moving forward. And that will be interesting to see how that card grows accordingly then.
Yeah, because that's another narrative that's been written that I've said myself about these types of cards is the grade doesn't matter. And this really showed that the grade does matter. You know, although it acts differently compared to a normal set card, there's a huge difference in what people are willing to pay for a 7 versus, you know, our perceived value of the 9 from that latest trade of 700, 900,000, whatever we want to call it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's
So I have a question. And real quick, Edison, did you see that trade, the Illustrator that was traded for like all the Charizards and the Pikachu illustration trophies
I
and all that?
watched your
Okay, so
recap
you've
on
seen
it.
that. Okay, so let's circle back then, because we voted at that time on who won that trade, and you voted the Radar. You voted the Illustrator guy, and I said I would have went with the Charizard guy, specifically because of the drawn Pikachu trophies, but also just because like those Charizards are like very liquid right now. Get rid of them. Would you still vote the same way?
I've changed my mind.
You changed your mind.
I have.
You would go Charizard guy now.
I would go Charizard guy now.
What about you, Edison? Who would you have like now? Who would you vote for? Obviously, like hindsight's whatever, but
I get maybe it depends on like what your end goal is. It's like you even
uh-huh.
mentioned it in that video too. Like the trades are super arbitrary too because it's not like those people probably paid fair like the market value for any of that stuff.
Mhm.
That they're like so if your goal is that you really just want to illustrate it because you want to illustrate or you're a fan, you're never going to sell it. That might be like the best opportunity you have to get one. So
Yeah.
like maybe he's in the right there, but yeah, I'm in the boat where like if personally I would be the Charizard guy because I prefer having kind of more diversity, and it's not like he got like just generic stuff too.
Right.
No,
It's
it's
like
all very high-end Charizards.
yeah, it's great stuff, and I think that stuff's a lot more liquid as you mentioned. And I don't know. I don't know. Like, did the guy end up selling all those Charizards? Like, what did they do?
I don't
I
think.
haven't been able to follow up or figure out what's going on in there, but
Yeah. I don't know there. I would say that Charizard pool is worth more than what it was when we did that video because Crystal and Shining have both risen at least
Hmm.
somewhat.
hmm
And I mean, I think Charizard as a whole, if there was like a Charizard EFT or something like I think that
well, I
it's
saw
like I think Charizard has just stonked up a little bit
yeah,
since
I
then. So
saw
like
actually that one Charizard that we didn't know what it was, that like non-hollow e-reader
yeah,
one.
yeah, the year, yep.
There's one on Yahoo Japan that's like creased. It's listed for like $25,000. So I still don't really know what that card is.
Yeah.
But
If you have a picture, I might be able to tell you what the card is.
it's the
It's like
Expedition Charizard, non-hollow, I think.
it was like
Oh, that
some random like I think one day Gem Mint came in and told us that there's only like a handful of it, like
Yeah.
20 or 30 or something like that. Like some really small number. Maybe I'm misquoting, maybe it wasn't even Gem Mint. Sorry if I misquoted you, but someone told us that was like pretty well known came in and told us like that it was a smaller amount. But regardless, even then, like I mean, you're talking there was a 10 Charizard in there, right? Wasn't it 10?
Yeah, 10
That's like
Shadowless, 10
400
first. Yeah.
$1,000 now. Like
Yeah.
you know, we just saw a 10 Shadowless go in PWCC, which could be a whole nother conversation, but like 75 grand. Like you start adding this up. I mean, and the Illustrator was what, a 9?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and then you can debate, you know, well, would a 9 perform better than a 7, blah, blah. But like, yeah, I'm still in the camp of like Charizard's the win. And the one point I didn't make in that video, I wish I would have. The reason I also like the Charizards is because you can piece out that asset, like your
mhm.
pool of what you got, and take a percentage. right? You can sell
Yeah.
1 or 2 of the Charizards and recoup some of your money.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, the Illustrator, unless you're gonna, like, go into fractional shares or something, which is, like, another topic and not where I would go with it, but you either sell the Illustrator or you don't,
I don't.
right? You're all in on that, and that's always, like, the hard part for me on, like, really investing in some of these high-end cards is that like I could have like 10 of this thing or I could have one of this thing. And while the one of this thing would probably do really well for me, I have like an easier out to taking a percentage out of, over here. And that's like always my struggle, right? Is when I'm weighing those things out is the idea of like being able to make liquid some of this without having to get rid of all of it.
Yeah.
And because I back when I bought a bunch of Charizards back in 2019, the first ads, I had people ask me like, "Why didn't you just save up and buy like one of the like 40K ones that were on eBay, the tens?" And while that would have performed, obviously really well for me, my idea was always that I could buy more of the others and then recoup some of that money and sell out of them if I needed. And it gave me more fluidity in terms of my position, and that's what I liked about it. Whereas like the other one, if it sits stagnant, I'm just stuck in it, and I either just completely get rid of my position or I don't.
Mhm.
So that's also why I like that Charizard trade in that aspect.
Good point. Very good point.
At the end of the day, though, like if both people were happy with the trade, then that's a good trade.
Oh, yeah, and,
Yeah.
yeah, all of that aside, right? If they're
Yeah.
happy, they're happy. I'm just talking from, like, if we had the opportunity perspective, which would we have taken?
Yeah. Yeah. And mine's kind of like all about the money aspect because that's what I like to talk about. So, but yeah. Yeah.
Which
No, that's
nothing
fair.
wrong with that.
Oh,
But I think it's also easier too to like with the Charizard thing is like not only is it easier to like sell like a portion and then recoup some of the money, but it's also like just easier to price like assign values to what that
right.
trade was worth.
Mhm.
Because like I mean the Illustrator is still very arbitrary, even with like one sale and a 7
Yeah.
like last week. It doesn't actually like maybe long term doesn't actually affect the price of the 9.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
I won't be you can't really chart out where that 9 is, but that's one of the benefits of PWCC is that there's 20 of the same card ending.
Yeah.
So you have so much sales history, so you can actually like articulate like what this stuff is properly worth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But the Illustrator is just like whatever someone's willing to pay. So I do agree to like the grade doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the card is the card,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and people will buy it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, that was
Um,
all I really wanted to talk about today. Did we miss anything else? Anything else getting you going? Anything else grinding your gears?
Oh, Post Malone loved it. Wasn't that a great concert?
I didn't watch it. I
I,
apologize.
There wasn't much to watch. It's only
I
like 13 minutes
people
long.
were saying that was for kids.
I think it was.
I don't think so. You do a cover of Hootie and the Blowfish? No, that's for us. That's for us.
You think? I don't
100%.
know. It seemed pretty
100%.
for kids to me. If you're doing it for adults, you'd just quit censoring and just let them run, you know?
Maybe it was for kids and they used Hootie and the Blowfish to bring us in.
Yeah, correct. I
That's
think
what
that's the idea, right?
that's the
It's
idea.
for kids, but parents are more likely to like sit and tune in and make their kids tune in as well if they're also interested in it. But that's been Pokemon's marketing tactic for like ever, right? Is that
Who's
idea.
better at that? Pixar or Pokemon?
I
You
think
gotta
Pixar's
think
pretty good at it.
they're both good at it. I
Pixar,
mean,
dude.
Pokemon's like
That's
the
a tough
biggest
one. That's
brand though in the world, and it
yeah,
keeps
but
working.
Pixar's a beast. I
Yeah,
mean,
like Pixar, like their movies are obviously made for kids, but then like the amount, but they're also made for adults. Like there's a whole
yeah.
nother layer
I mean,
that adults can appreciate. And
So
yeah.
what we need is a Pixar-made Pokemon movie.
I mean,
That's
that would
dangerous.
probably do
My
really well.
dream job, by the way, is to work at Pixar. I don't know what I'd do. Probably just ideas, because that's what I like to. I don't think there's any money in that, but yeah, that's a great conversation. I
Because
might
like,
have to do that.
Detective Pikachu was kind of like that. Like, Detective Pikachu, like,
Yeah,
obviously, it's oriented towards kids, but, like, a good chunk of structure of that movie was definitely, like, for adults and catered to adults, and, I think 'cause, like, all the Ryan Reynolds humor, like, most of that falls on deaf ears. The kids, they just laugh because everyone's laughing, like, that
hmm
kinda thing. Like, I think that is, like, another great example. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that should be the next podcast topic. We all, like, research data points and
we'll see.
It's
just
like
kidding.
We'll see.
there's like the Mr. Mime scene too. Like, do kids realize that like he was like threatening to light Mr. Mime on fire and kill him if he didn't tell them, or like he's just like, oh, it's cute because the Pokemon's like having
Yeah,
fun with
yeah,
each
yeah,
other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that
Pokemon
like
just doesn't
in,
have as many opportunities because most of the movies they make are like very anime, like kid-esque, and it's very obvious that they are for kids. But when, Detective Pikachu, I think, was like a great step in the right direction. I just also think that's like one of those things, if they do it too much, then it like loses its merit.
Mhm.
Kind of like Logan Paul box breaks.
I mean, it's kind of tough though because Pixar is like a very similar formula in all their movies. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of characters are the same, and then like at the very third act, you find out some story point from the very beginning of the movie that ties back and creates like an emotional moment between two of the main
Yeah.
characters,
Yeah, there's very
and then
subtle
you
things
cry.
too, right? I
Yeah,
cry every time at Pixar movies, but there's little subtle points, right? Where like I think it was the shoot, what was the one where they had the emotions in their heads?
Inside Out,
Inside Out.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Inside Out. They
I
did the little cutscene. I think either the beginning, maybe the end, where the girl was playing hot lava and the floor was lava, and she was just jumping on pillows, and then they obviously animated in real lava to make it seem like it was real. Like that just like hits everybody because we all do that as kids, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's incredible, incredible. But that's a conversation for another day.
Hey, if the thumbnail of this podcast does not have the Pixar lamp in it, you have failed.
Well,
I'm just
you
telling you
mentioned like
right
other
now.
stuff that you wanted to talk about, and like I think the Sinnoh remakes are like pretty huge.
Oh,
Hmm. Yeah, I don't care
Like maybe
about
you don't
this
want to talk
stuff,
about the
but
you
here.
don't care about those?
no, I care about Pokemon Snap, and I am curious about this open world thing, but there's just not
Yeah.
enough information at all. I feel, everybody hated on the graphics, right? But I think they're so far away from being even close to having a full game that
Mhm.
we haven't seen anything yet from that.
Yeah, everyone that's like, "Oh, I hate the graphics," but then they'll go play like a waifu simulator on their mobile cell phone. Like, I don't buy into any of that. I think people just want a reason to hate on everything. Like,
Yeah,
whatever. Like, just just learn to be happy, people. Like that.
yeah.
That's what I've got. I'm excited, dude. I thought all those games looked fun. I'll play them
Yeah.
all. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, the Sinnoh, the Diamond Pro remakes, it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's something like
Yeah,
for
exactly.
fun,
It just
nothing
looks
serious.
fun.
I probably should play those because
Also,
that's where I stopped. My last game was Ruby, so
I played Diamond, but I want to go back. I never played Plat, which is like the one everyone told me I needed to play, and I never played Pearl, but I don't really remember Platinum, so I need to go back and play it. I don't, or Diamond, I mean, and I don't even know if I finished it actually. But I did have a question for you guys, and maybe this will be a good place to close. The Arceus game showed the starters, but they're not your usual like 3 new or 3 from the
Yeah.
same gen. It was 3 different ones. And there's like this whole theory behind them that like Cyndaquil's the mage and Rowlet's the archer and uh Oshawott the sword because it turns into Samurott. And so like that would be like your paladin, your
Knight.
like your range class and your mage. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so which I thought was like super cool, by the way.
I didn't
And
think
it
of
But
has
that
that's
nothing to
already
do
a
with my
theme.
question, but I just thought it
They
was cool. Go ahead.
they did that for X and Y, right? That was like the whole theme of X and Y was that I think Delphox becomes the mage, Chestnut is the warrior, and then is it Greninja? Is Greninja that region or the next?
Brokey? Hold on. Let me Google it. I'll look it up.
Yeah,
But I'm pretty sure like the whole Gen 6 thing was that they're like role playing different roles.
hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
No.
it is Greninja.
Yeah.
So what
Well,
is
I no,
Greninja?
I think that makes sense. I didn't put that together. But I think
Yeah, I
the
never put
biggest
that
thing is to
together
drive
either,
in.
but I see it like the tank, the mage, and the
Yeah.
kind of like
Like
the
it's like assassin. It's almost like a thief
yeah, the
class.
assassin. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just a clear way to bring in people from every generation. So
Hmm.
Yeah,
nobody
so
should do
with
that.
the Arceus game, my question was gonna be, who would you pick as your starter?
Mine's pretty obvious. It would have to be little Typhlosion, little Cyndaquil.
I have no nostalgia for that Pokemon, and
Dude,
like the
I
games
was
I
a
remember.
Meganium guy, dude. Like I
Yeah, I'm
was
a Meganium
Chikorita.
guy too. I don't
Oh
know. I
wow,
feel
see,
like
I was a Cyndaquil
I
guy
didn't like
he
growing
looks
up.
like a naked mole rat. He looks very strange as a Pokemon, and I just
Oh, dang,
uh,
dang.
I'm a Decidueye guy. I think Decidueye is like a super cool concept of like a ghost archer. So like, yeah, I would just go
Yeah,
with that.
So Rowlet and Cyndaquil are who I'm torn between. I like both of them. I like both of their evolution lines. I think they're so good. I actually like Samurott as Pokemon, but I just do not like Oshawott, and therefore, like, I don't want to have to play through part of a game with only Oshawott. So yeah, I think if I had to like split right now, it would be Cyndaquil. But there is like a world where I see myself playing Rowlet. So
I appreciate a game that has no involvement with Pikachu or Eevee right now. Well, that's pretty cool.
yeah. No, do you know what would be cool though? The coolest is if the game changes based on which one you pick. So like the storylines at the start, like maybe you start in a different part of the world or whatever, is like not the same based on your starter, which gives like replayability and more incentive to go back and like try the others. Which is something that you generally see in like RPGs and stuff, right? Is that
Like the class that you pick is then
yeah, the
impact
class
the rest
you
of the
pick
story.
like influences like the story that you play out. And I think that would be
Yeah.
very cool if they did something like that.
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of early on, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Game Freak has kind of let a lot of people down in the past, and I don't know. It feels like they quite literally took when people said we want the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon, and they just copy and pasted the Breath of the Wild trailer.
Which is fine. I want the Breath of the Wild of every franchise ever. I want the Breath of the Wild of Crash Bandicoot, Mario Kart 8. Like, give it all to me.
I want Pokemon God of War.
But like those games aren't just good because they look good; they're also good because like they have a good story, and I think that's what Pokemon has been lacking.
Yeah,
Like, you need a story to really sell the enjoyment and like for people to be invested.
Yeah.
We're far ways out.
I don't know. Pokemon
Hopefully
Snap
we get it.
leaderboard. Great job, Pokemon.
I'm excited.
Thanks
for
for
that,
listening
too.
to what I thought. I appreciate it. I know
I'm excited for Snap.
They watch our episodes, so they saw that I wanted that and they put it in. So there's one thing I was right about.
There you go.
But
the only thing, but there you go.
The only thing. What was that, Edison?
No, maybe we can discuss this some other time. I'd be curious if they ever do like another. Like, I mean, everyone knows maybe not everyone knows, but the original Pokemon Snap competition. I wonder if they would love to do another type of Pokemon Snap competition.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense, but maybe they're like shying away.
Well, since it's all online and digital now, maybe there'll be an NFT.
NFT.
No, all right. I'm calling it. That is the lie.
I want 8-year-olds to get into NFTs.
All right, fantastic. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out today.
New Pokemon Snap, sponsored by Bondly.
Game Freak gets
20 copies of each.
Game Freak sold out, dude.
But yeah, well, that's all she wrote. Thank you guys for watching and have a wonderful. I try to get you to spit up your Orange Crush there. Have a wonderful rest of your week.